Hello and welcome to another one of my videos. In today's video I'm going to be going through record highs and where the gold price will go, and also the mechanisms that underpin the gold price. On the table you'll see a load of gold coins. I haven't bought these in new. These coins were something that were bought a while back. This one was from the Monster 13-hour trip. This one was from a gentleman from my home county. Yeah, so nothing new to show, but I did want to talk about the gold price. In the UK, it hit, well, I'm currently looking at it, it's £2,017.47. It's pretty much sitting on 65 quid a gram. And I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked at that whatsoever. We were always heading there. We've always been heading here for such a long time. When you take a step back and you look at the overall system of how finance works and how countries are run in terms of their political structures, you understand that assets have to go up. And there is a duality in inflation as well, which I will touch upon, because that is also important, because the people who make the decisions benefit from those decisions and inflation benefits from them. But in terms of gold price, it is a record high, but it's going to go higher. It will probably dip a few times. It might go back below 2000. It might drop down to 1900, 1950. But the days of 1000, 1200, 1400, 1600, they're pretty much gone bar some extreme change to the system. And if you know your history like I do, and I wouldn't say I'm a historian or even an expert, but I know that every nation that had a currency has debased it. It's human nature, and you cannot escape it. You cannot hold that standard. They couldn't even do it with Bitcoin. Now that's still up for debate. That's still an experiment. We'll look back in 10, 20 years. But personally, I think that's kind of done myself. That's my views. There's going to be people who say, well, Sean, I don't agree with you. Good, that's a market. You know, bet on it accordingly. Don't bother me about it. But I think if you look back through history, the Greeks couldn't control it. The Romans couldn't control it. The Spanish couldn't control it. And there's always been advancements in technology. The Italians and Greeks definitely couldn't control it in terms of the more modern, I'm not even talking ancients. There's always been advancements in technology, such as, for example, they used to clip coins, and that was a form of theft. So they created reading on coins. I don't think I've got a coin with reading on it that I can show you. Maybe this. Yeah, this has got it. And then over the years, that would be faked, and it's been a mess. It's always been a mess in terms of people trying to debase currency. And it wasn't just governments it wasn't just people clipping coins, it was also governments, because they found it could be very lucrative if done over many millions of gold coins. So we know human nature is to kind of pass the buck. We recently entered into this experiment of quantitative easing. Yeah, that's a fantastic experiment. It's gonna fail, and badly. There was a paper where they talked about quantitative tightening in the UK. So I think it was 2008 QE money that they put into the system. It's a direct correlation between putting money into the system and the gold price going up. And this is why we haven't seen anything yet in terms of record highs. It's just the new high, because every high it goes will be a record high, and we're going to see many of them over the next few years. But the QE, they put a paper, I think it was 2060s, that they would pay it back. Well, that didn't happen because we had COVID, and then we had the latest outlasted Liz Truss with her probably. In my mind, I thought she was right. I just thought she went about it the wrong way, but it spooked the market to the point that they had to raise hundreds of millions. I'm not sure it went into the billions on that one, but it was hundreds of millions. And it's more and more debt. Now, this is great. If you've got assets, you're going to benefit from this. Your house price is going to go up. Your stock portfolio is probably going to go up. Your gold and silver is probably going to go up, depending on what you bought and where you bought from. But it's not good for the average person. So if you've got a political system where it pays you to cheat the system, it pays you to put that debt onto unborn sons and daughters, and that's essentially what it does. You are stealing from the prosperity of the nation, but the future citizens of the nation, more so than anything. Because you cannot cut back the expenses enough to cover it. Now, if anyone looks at the debt clock, I was talking to a good friend of mine about this. Now, I don't know how accurate this debt clock is. I assume it's there or thereabouts. But if you look at it, most Western countries are in a whole load of problems. They really are. Even Germany is not in a great position. And Germany is probably the benchmark for prudency, for being prudent. It's a problem. Yeah, Germany, 80% GDP. Now, what struck me was we're at 110% in the UK. But external debt, so credit cards, car loans, etc., 303%. It's going to end in tears. And what you're going to find is what's been happening up and down the country, where things get smaller. You get shrinkflation and inflation. We used to have inflation or shrinkflation. Inflation at 3% or shrinkflation maybe at 5%. You're getting both. It's not pretty. I've noticed it. I go shopping and things are smaller. And that's okay for me. I'm doing okay in life. But if you're on the breadline, it's not good. And it isn't a good thing. Because what happens is, in a system of in a system where the inflation benefits one party, and that's an ever increasing smaller party, and it's the detriment to a bigger party, is you manage to get these massive wealth gaps, and it's not good for society. So off the back of knowing that gold is fueled by money existence, and the political system is fueled by buying votes, essentially, they will put more money into the system and they will kick the can longer and longer and longer. So the gold price, it has to go up. Now, you could argue, for those of you who like to think about these problems, well, what happens if they change the system? And I think there's been many countries that have tried. So at the moment, we've got a Western-based system. It's based around the US dollar. They're having lots of problems. Will that change? Well, historically, yes. Systems always change. They always have done. So if you go back to the ancient times, I think Mali at one point, Timbuktu, was the most prosperous country in the world. They don't tell you about that. The richest man was a black man. They don't tell you about that. He put so much gold onto the market that it suppressed the price for years because he went on pilgrimage. There's always going to be a dominant power in the world. That's just how we are. Now, you could argue, you could extrapolate and say, well, if there are aliens, which there probably is, it's a massive universe. It's not a channel focused on that, but let's be pragmatic. We could have one unitary authority where everyone works together. It ain't going to be anytime soon. So let's just forget about that for a while. There's always going to be a dominant power. And if the dominant power changes the financial system, then you could argue the gold price might stagnate or it might come down. But the only way it's going to come down in the current system is for them to eliminate the debt. And for them to eliminate the debt, they've got to grow themselves. How are they going to grow themselves? That's the problem. It's hard. It's really hard. We're already in a globalized economy. It's easy to grow yourself when you're plundering from other countries. It's easy to grow yourself when you're selling goods and services to other countries that need them, who are less developed. But if everyone is pretty much there or thereabouts in terms of development, you're talking at marginal increases. So how are you going to get rid of that debt? You can't. You have to debase it, which means that inflation is going to be higher than the norm. It's going to be higher than it should be. I could be wrong, but that's how I see it's going to be. So I personally think that the West is toast myself. I think that China and Japan have got a lot of problems. Well, Japan's been a zombie economy for a long time. China, in terms of debt, has a lot of problems in terms of public debt. Private debt, not so much. So yeah, record gold price, that's fine. It's going to go up even further. You're going to have higher highs. Will it get to £2,500? Yes, it will. How long's a piece of string? And also you need to realize that this is a race and everyone kind of falls off at their own individual price point. So I'm probably on my 6th wave of clients. When I started, I rarely deal with the clients I started with 2016, 2017. I know that because when I started trading, I would send a friend request to the people I traded with. I don't do it anymore because I found people were trying to use that as a form of telling other people that they've dealt with me when it wasn't the case. So I'd knock that on the head. But the people who are on Facebook friends with me, they do not buy coin anymore. And they stopped buying coin a long time ago. They probably bought and sold. So you're going to get people coming to the market. The sizes are going to get smaller and smaller. And these people might last a duration of 1 or 2 years. Maybe their target is to make 10% and they'll be gone. You don't know. But it will go higher. It will go slightly lower in the meantime, but it will go higher. We're going to have new record highs over time. I'm 99.9% sure of that. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope it's opened up your mind a little, and I'll see you on the next one.